Committee to order for August 28th. Thank you all for coming. Item number 1 is approval of the July 24, 2018 Finance Committee minutes. Tamara, is there anything of concern there?
No, sir.
Call for a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion or issues? None? All in favor? Under budgets and grants items, number 2, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners accept the grant from Hello Goodbye Outreach Program and increase the Glynn County Juvenile Courts FY19 program revenue and expenditures budgets by $2,250 each. Yes, ma'am. Monica.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So Glynn County Juvenile Court submitted a 2018 grant application to the Hello Goodbye Outreach Program, and they were awarded $2,250. So all the funds are dedicated to conduct psychologicals on children that are having behavioral issues at school. So that's what the funds are intended for, and with your approval, they'll be able to use those funds.
Questions?
No. I offer a motion that we accept this grant on behalf of juvenile court.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Number 3, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners do 3 things. 1, accept the FY19 Juvenile Courts KidNet Glynn Promoting Safety and Stable Families Grant in the amount of $57,950 from the Division of Children and Family Services. Approve the grant contract subject to the final approval of the county attorney, and then increase the juvenile courts FY19 revenue and expenditures budget by $43,462. Monica.
So this grant has been very instrumental in helping juvenile court as well. The funds are dedicated for contractual services, and they hire counselors to come in, and they do family counseling one-on-one. And this year they were awarded that particular amount, and with your approval, we'll be able to use it for counseling during FY19.
Offer a motion that we accept these grants on behalf of juvenile court.
Second.
Any questions or issues? Vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Monica. Contracts and bids. Number 4, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve and execute the addendum with the Coastal Georgia Area Community Action Authority. Tamara.
This is a addendum for a contract that we've had year after year with this Coastal Georgia Area Community Action Authority. The funding is utilized to provide educational and social and economic assistance to residents of Coastal Georgia, and is utilized across a wide range of services, including the Senior Center, Head Start, daycare services, meals for the elderly, and non-emergency medical transport.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Number 5, consider recommending that Board of Commissioners approve and execute the addendum with Coastal Regional Commission.
This also is an addendum for a contract that we've had for many years. This is for the rural transit system in the amount of $36,000, and our annual dues in the amount of $83,516.
Is that what's the total? Are you adding both of those together, or is it?
It's almost $120,000.
Okay. I was just curious.
And I presume, Will, that the dues are based on $1 per resident? You know, it's funny, the only reason I bring it up is you Google and you look at different informational sources about the population of Glynn County, and it's kind of a moving target. How do we come up with 83,516 people, you know?
I believe it's based on the last census.
Last census, okay. Any questions or issues?
No.
Motion?
Critically needed.
Yeah. Motion?
Offer a motion that we approve this addendum.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, as my computer goes through a slow roll. The next is number 6, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the issuance of purchase order to Nally Honda for $37,799 for the purchase of 3 pre-owned vehicles as stipulated in number 6, with funding provided by the fiscal year 19 Police Seizure Fund, the amount of $25,000, and the fiscal year Capital Fund for $12,799, and approve the use of up to $10,626 of the remaining FY19 budgeted police capital fund savings to outfit these vehicles with radios and other necessary police equipment. Chief Powell.
Yes, sir. What we're asking is consideration from the Finance Committee to purchase 3 used vehicles as opposed to getting 2 vehicles. We've actually had some accidents in our unmarked fleet, has diminished the fleet, and we're trying to get our fleet built back up. Additionally, if we purchase these vehicles, these used cars, they don't look like police cars. We're trying to get something that we can get out into the public, and that we can work, investigations, undercover operations, and the bad guys can't identify the cars. There's a cost savings, as you mentioned, $10,626 out of the approved funding that's in the FY19 budget, and also out of the seizure fund. These cars have been looked at by our fleet maintenance personnel. They agree that the cars are in good shape, and it would be a benefit for the police department.
Questions?
I just, of course I support this, but how do you not make them look like a police car?
Well,
Doesn't it have to have lights or something?
Well, they will, but there'll be concealed lights in the car. The standard car right now is either like a Ford Fusion or a Dodge Charger. I mean, you see it coming and you suspect it's a police car. If you notice on these cars, they're not. They kind of go out of that mold. Like one of them is a Jeep.
Okay.
Another one is a Buick. So it's kind of out of the mold and doesn't
Okay.
fit the standard. There's a police car.
Okay. All right. I'm just
What,
curious.
just out of curiosity, Chief, what happened to, where we used to use the bad guys' vehicles?
We still do that.
seize?
We still, if we have a car that we seize and if we can get it evaluated and it provides a useful lifespan, if we put money into it, we use that vehicle. So any seizures that we take in, that's a usable car, we turn around, put it back on the road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion further? All in favor?
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Commissioner, I'm going.
We'll see you.
Yeah.
This is not a political statement, we've been told. You're exiting, you're not.
That's correct, sir. I've got that there.
All
Yeah.
right. Safe travels.
Him and Jay have a date.
Number 7, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the officials agreement with Golden Isles Officials Association to provide officiating for Glynn County Parks and Recreation Mainland Youth Soccer Games for the 2018 season in an amount not to exceed $10,000 with funding provided by fiscal year 19 operating budget. Yes, Lisa, ma'am.
Okay, well, last year we developed an officials contract template to use with all of our youth athletic leagues. We tried to place it out for bid for a year-round contract with one company, but we didn't have much response with that. So here we are again, then coming to you for each individual sport with separate associations to manage our officials and schedule our officials for the mainland soccer season. And this is with Golden Isles Officials Association. It's a different group, a new group that we're using. That they do some other leagues in the area. So we're glad to move forward with them. The fees that we're going to pay them are comparable to what we paid last year. We do have more soccer teams this year. We're in the process of forming those teams, but we have a budget of about $13,000, and some of those funds are to be used for the spring season. So we're looking at a possibly not exceeding $10,000 for this expense this year. This type of situation, these contracts give us a little more accountability, to hold these people accountable to making sure that they're providing professional officials certain dress, certain ways that they perform their services, so we can have some recourse if they don't perform their services. But
Sure.
Yes, because that, as you know, will keep down fights among the parents.
yes, sir. And some of the age groups, we are going to be using possibly 3 officials for some of the soccer games as well, the older age groups.
All right. I offer a motion that we accept this contract recommendation.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Number 8, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the officials agreement with Gold Coast Officials Association to provide officiating for Glynn County Parks and Recreation football games for the 2018 season, an amount not to exceed $18,000 with funding from the fiscal year 19 operating budget. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, same thing. We are looking to have a contract with the Gold Coast Officials Association. They do some officiating of the high school leagues in the area to provide officials for our youth football program, which starts at age 5 with flag football and goes up to tackle football at age 12. While the soccer agreement is strictly for the mainland soccer program, this agreement is for the entire football program. And so we would propose entering into an agreement with them for this upcoming season.
Okay, I offer a motion to accept the recommendation.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Number 9, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve a fee waiver for United Way of Coastal Georgia in the amount of $300 plus the $100 deposit and the cost of staff time for the use of 3 ball fields at Mallory Park on Saturday, October 20, for the purpose of a fundraising kickball tournament.
The United Way of Coastal Georgia approached the county about having this event at Mallory Park in October. This is the second year that they have done this at Mallory Park. I think they had about 8 teams last year. But they've approached us about using the fields at Mallory Park for their fundraiser and have requested a fee waiver, and the rental cost would be $100 per field, and then there would be the $100 deposit, which is a refundable deposit if they leave the facility in the same condition they found it. But to waive the deposit and waive the field rental cost, and then we would provide a staff person on site. And that cost would be, it depends on the number of hours that they would work, but potentially as much as $130. But that fee is currently right now paid directly to the person working and not to the county, so that fee would be waived as well. And they were good stewards of the park last year, kept it clean and had a quality program, and so we would come to you requesting approval to waive the fees for this year.
What's the age group for this?
It's adults.
Kickball? Okay. All right.
Good question. That kind of surprised me. Maybe
Well,
get a team together.
yeah.
Matt's on the team.
Is that right? I can see, I get 4, you, me, Richard,
I don't run anymore.
Commissioner Murray. Neither do I, none of us do. We wouldn't be a very good team.
Designated runner.
Yeah.
All right,
Motion
any-
to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Great. Okay, thank you, Lisa, great. Okay, John, number 10, consider recommended Board of Commissioners approve the second amendment to the electronic filing participation agreement with Tyler Technologies. Hey, John.
All right, yeah, the state has mandated that everyone file court documents electronically, and so we wanted to, we basically set up the agreement with Tyler. We want to get the fee structure approved so that when people file it, the fees can be collected. This is mandated to go into effect, I think, in January.
How are they gonna set up collecting the fees? When they-
It's through the system. through
So they have to
Agent
pay it
File. Yeah,
as they get them?
yeah.
Okay.
Should be more efficient.
Should be, should save some time. We'll be back at the next finance committee meeting for the second part of this, which is a research thing, just to let y'all know, and it's the fees for that also.
Motion
I
to-
offer a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, John. Sheriff Jump, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the purchase order to Akins Ford Dodge Jeep Chrysler for 7 2019 Dodge Charger Pursuit vehicles in the amount of $164,351.25 and 2 Dodge Durangos in the amount of $62,044 and a purchase order to Wade Ford in the amount of $58,069 with all funding from the Capital Projects Fund. Sounds
Thank you,
like
Commissioner.
y'all will be riding in style.
Well, this is a heavy year because, you can tell by the 7 vehicles. The 2 Dodge Durangos are, we're trying to find a SUV that is comparable to the Charger for transports. And the Dodge Durangos is the closest. We don't like the Explorers. And, we're gonna be riding this year as we have been in many years.
Yeah, nice.
What's the purchase order for Wade Ford?
2 trucks. That was left out. It was in the original memorandum. I didn't do the typing of this sheet here, but it's 2 Fords.
Pickup trucks?
Yes, sir.
Which
Okay.
model? Which model pickup truck?
Ford F-150, 4-door.
What they gonna be used for, Sheriff?
One is for the DEA and one is for maintenance. We've got an old maintenance truck that's about wore out. The other one is one that, if you remember, Darien PD gave us one several years back, and it's over on mileage just now. And we're replacing that one.
Great. Questions?
No. I'll for a motion that we recommend for purchase as outlined here.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.
Yeah.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've updated that motion when it
Thank you.
goes to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 12, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 to the contract with Seaboard Construction for Highway 17 Southport Parkway intersection improvements for $40,108 with funding provided by the fiscal year 19 Capital Projects Fund budget.
Okay, we don't usually like to say this, but we made a little bit of an error here. When we originally spec'd this thing, we went with an 8-4-2 composition of the roadway, base, asphalt. And GDOT says, well, they want a 10-5-2 mix, so that requires more base, more asphalt. So the good news is we have a bid tab for this, so we just go back and say, okay, this is the quantity we need now. And so that's how the change order is out there. We have the money for it within the project, and the project came in under what we had originally spec'd.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? That was tough. You beat your breast a little bit next time, you know, when you say you make a mistake, you know what I mean?
I said it under my breath.
Okay. All right, number 13, more vehicles. Consider recommended Board of Commissioners approve a purchase order for 1 Chevrolet Silverado pickup for $24,411 to Langdale Chevrolet and a purchase order for 2 Ford Fusions for a unit price of $18,475 for a total price of $36,950 to Allen Vigil Ford of Merrill, Georgia, with funding provided from the fiscal year 19 Capital Projects Fund budget.
So these are two sets of vehicles off the state contract. The Silverado pickup truck is for community services department, and then the Ford Fusions are for the property appraiser downstairs.
All right. I'll for a motion that we accept these recommendations.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners award a contract modification for the Frederica Road intersection improvement projects to Thomas and Hutton of Brunswick, Georgia, in the amount of $14,750 with funding provided by SPLOST 2016 fund.
So this is the design money needed to design the 2 additions that we looked at when we briefed you a month and a half ago concerning this project. One was the Wimberley area sidewalk, and 2 was the drainage down Riverview Drive. And so to have Thomas and Hutton do this, design the improvements there, we're going to need this amount of money.
So we're talking about Wimberley and Riverview, but are those all put into the Frederica Road intersection improvement, they're all part of the scope of that
They're all
larger
part of the
project?
scope.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, but specifically, it's those two areas that
Those two
require
areas.
adjustment. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Great. 15, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners award the bidding for the resurfacing Demery Road Splosh 2016 project to East Coast Asphalt of Douglas, Georgia for $792,268.25 with funding from Splosh 2016, capital improvements funding, and developer provided funding for turn lanes.
So since we wrote this memo, we have changed our recommendation. And we would like to recommend that the Board of Commissioners reduce the scope of the work to remove the turn lane and drainage improvements from the project and to award a contract based upon updated bids from the responsive bidders for just mill and resurface only
Of just Demery Road.
of just Demery Road. And then when we get those, hopefully we'll get those bids before the commission meeting, and then staff will recommend what we'd like the commission to do at that time.
So when are you gonna do the other?
The other is a little bit complicated.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what you meant by and developer.
So the turn of
He was looking for help, Will.
the turn lane is bonded, right? Which means they have to perform, they have to be given the opportunity to perform.
So,
This is the one at the reserves?
Correct, yes, sir.
right, so one of the conditions placed on their zoning of that property was that a turn lane be installed so that folks coming westbound on Demery could turn left into there. Several years ago, they wanted to move forward, and the county hadn't made a decision. I think there's some talk at the time about whether to put a roundabout there or something else, some other traffic improvements. And so they gave us a bond and an amount to cover the cost of putting in that turn lane so they could go ahead with their development. So when the write-up says developer provided funding, that's what they're talking about, is that bond money that was given to the county.
Now, one concern that we have is the amount of bond money that the county has right now falls considerably short of the cost of the turn lanes in 2018.
Okay.
Is the developer gonna be agreeable to still move forward with it? Or is he still gonna be required to?
So we have an agreement, what we call a unilateral agreement, where the developer at the time, a couple of years ago, signed to say, essentially, our agreement with them is, when we want them to do the turn lane, we send them a notice to proceed, and they have 30 days to do it. So that would be our first steps, to tell them, we want you to go ahead and do this. If they can't or won't do that, that's where the bond is supposed to be there to protect the county, so that we have the money to go in and do the work ourselves. I think the question that's arisen recently is the amount that we're holding enough to cover the cost of doing it?
Well, apparently from what Mr. Austin just said, it ain't.
How do we arrive at that amount, bond amount?
Because I think this was a thing back in 2011 or 2012 or whenever it's been.
14 and 16.
14, yeah, and so it's been a while, so and then there was a thing too about something with that turn lane and with joint water and sewer because of some issue they had in there or something.
They wanted the water line to be
that's right.
rerouted, but I think Dave has determined that they have backed off of it.
Good memory, huh?
Very impressive, very impressive. But just for the record, the water line issue is no longer an active issue. Currently, the issue is the cost of the turn lanes, and
Well, who's on the hook for it then?
Developer.
The developer?
So
Or are we gonna be?
those are things we're still looking at.
That's if the developer agrees.
The about how the costs were how we got there. Back in 2014, I believe, their engineer submitted some plans for the turn lane. Submitted those to community development. Community development director at the time said those are acceptable. They also provided a cost estimate at the time of what it would cost to do that, and we accepted a bond in that amount. I think in 2016, as I understand it, they came back with some revised plans and said, how about this instead, at a reduced cost? Community development director at the time said, those are acceptable, and we'll reduce your bond amount based on those plans and that estimated cost. So the question I think we have now is whether those estimated costs at the time were accurate, or whether, I think one of the difficulties here is we bid this project out as one big thing rather than, we didn't say give us a separate bid for a turn lane. So I think somewhat our estimate on the turn lane work here is, it's an estimate. We don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. But there's a question, I think some of our best guess from the folks we have their experience is that the cost that was placed on doing this work in 2016 is probably less, maybe less than what the cost of 2018 is to do. But I don't know that we have a firm grasp of what those numbers are.
So, again, who's responsible for paying for whatever the cost?
So, again, according to that agreement we have with the developer, we go to the developer and say, time to put in that turn lane. They have 30 days to do it. If they don't, then we can use their bond money to do that. If that money falls short, that's a little bit of an open question as to how do we cover that. Whether we could go back to the developer and make them cover it, whether that's just something the county's going to have to absorb. And those are some issues that staff is still working on to try to sort all that stuff out.
I thought we had arrived at a price for this turn lane. I thought it was supposed to be part of this total Demery Road project of $792,000.
We had the project broken out into mill and resurface, some drainage improvements,
Right.
and what we think the turn lane's
Right.
gonna cost.
So
You can break, when they bid the project has certain items in it, and you can break out some of the money, you know, that are obviously related to the turn lane. But there's some profit overhead, mobilization, all that kind of stuff. It's overall project money that if you start slicing it up, you know.
And I understand that, but what I'm saying is that if you've got a price that was built in for the turn lanes, why don't we just tell the developer, here's what the turn lane is gonna cost, $120,000 or whatever the cost might be, and, you know, here's what you have to come up with.
Yeah. So what is the number, Dave? Do we know what our estimate is for the cost of it?
It's $137,000.
I was pretty close. Damn, I'm
You
impressed.
good, Rich.
But anyway, that's what gets back to my question. Why don't we just tell the developer, here's what it's gonna cost, ante up the rest of the money.
How much
But you
bond
should.
money we got?
$60,000.
So he's gotta come up with another, you know, 77,000.
Well, I think there's a couple difficulties there. I
That's a
think
good
the
way to put it.
137 is our estimate. I don't know that that's a hard number that we know how accurate or inaccurate that number is.
But how you gonna know until you actually, you know, bid the contract and they do the work?
Well, right. So that's the first thing. When we could go to the contractor and say, "This is your responsibility. You go out, you get bids, you do this work, and whatever that work is, you do it." The protection for the county is supposed to be the bond. In this case, we have an LLC. The developer's an LLC, which may or may not exist anymore. They've sold all the units in the development, so there may be some difficulty going after them if they say we're not
They
going
may care
to do
less.
this. But that's what the bond is supposed to have been for. So again, I think one of the things that we really need to do is figure out exactly how much the turn lane is going to cost. And again, the first thing we do is we go to them and say, it's time to put in that turn lane. Because again, the agreement they signed says if we issue them a notice to proceed, they have 30 days to do it, or we use their bond money to do it.
But isn't this just gonna make the whole thing on Demery Road that much more of an issue? Because now we're gonna go through and mill and resurface it. And then at some point in time, you're gonna have to come back and close one lane on Demery while they put the turn lane in with all the equipment and everything. So it's just gonna, you know, instead of doing it all at one time, now you're gonna have two different periods where traffic on Demery is gonna be a darn hassle.
Yeah, I really wouldn't like to see that. And so can we go ahead and do it? And then at the same time proceed with trying to get reimbursed?
So we have money in hand.
Yeah, but only 60,000.
Right. So again, that agreement with the contractor says we send them a notice to proceed and give them an opportunity to do that.
To do it themselves.
To do it themselves. Now they
Have we notified the developer?
I'm not sure if
So then
stopped
can we
telling them. We haven't sent out the actual written notice.
Well, I guess my question would be, why not? If we got a bid from, who is it? Who
East
bid
Coast.
this? East Coast? Well, we knew that East Coast bid the turn lanes for whatever the amount they bid it for. Why didn't we notify the developer at that time that we were, you know, had received this bid and did they want to proceed with it?
I think at the time that we put that together, staff's impression was that that was funds given to the county to do the turn lane, more of an escrow versus an actual bond. And so understanding was that we had money in hand to do, not through a bond.
And it only became clear in a conference call yesterday afternoon exactly what all the particulars are and were. In other words, what was the amount of the original bond? What was refunded to the builder between 2014 and 16? What we now have, and now the estimated cost to do the work.
How much was refunded?
Probably about $18,000. Based upon an estimate between 14 and 16 that the turn lanes wouldn't cost quite as much as our original estimate, which is inconceivable to me that anything had gone down in cost over a 2-year period of time, but that's the way the business was handled.
Yeah, and who decides if an estimate is good? The community development director decides that?
yes,
I know. So,
Commissioner, generally the community development director looks to my office to provide a recommendation. And what we do is we recommend whether we feel that engineer's opinion of probable cost is reflected. And that's what
Okay.
we did.
So,
But it was reflected, like I said, at the time of the project going through, our ordinance doesn't allow us to get a construction amount plus. It's for the amount of the work to be done.
and you all felt that it was no more than $60,000 to do that part of the project?
We felt the information given to us looked that it was in alignment with current costs at the time.
And now 2 years later, the estimate's twice that or more.
Yeah, I just really would not want to see people being inconvenienced because of how this happened. Well, period, anyway. But for them, and school has just started, I just, we need to get that done and go after the rest of this money, I think.
Actually, the way you're talking, it's gonna be 3 separate projects, right? It's gonna be the milling and resurfacing, then the turn lanes, and then the drainage. So Demery Road conceivably is gonna be torn up and in a mess 3 different periods of time over the next couple of months while all this is done, instead of trying to do it all at one time. Is that right or wrong?
You could decide, or staff could recommend not to do the drainage. there's no drainage on the road right now.
Well, why would we resurface a road and not put sufficient
The
drainage?
drainage makes the situation better, but, you know, we've been living with this current situation on Demery Road for quite a long time.
Yeah, but if
There's
we can
also
make something better, and we've got the money to make it better, why not make it better?
Well, we don't have all the money for that either, okay? We estimated that at $150,000, and that is more than $150,000. So we would have to recommend, to Finance Committee for additional funds from the fund balance.
From the fund balance?
Right, to complete the drainage.
How much?
Or the capital fund balance, if there's any capital fund left.
How much are we talking about?
I think we were in the 223, probably 70-something thousand
And
dollars.
what you need to understand is that the whole contract had traffic control from Frederica School entrance, the red line, all the way to Chick-fil-A. Okay, so the drainage portion would have had some aspect of traffic control. The building the turn lanes would have some aspect of traffic control, and the paving would eat up the rest of it, probably the majority of it. The other large portion that was a lump sum item across the whole contract was grading complete, which does all the clearing, taking down those big pine trees and building the lanes and the base and all that. And it's very, very difficult to take and assess what portion of each one of those lump sum items goes to each of these individual 3 sub-projects. Okay, so if the drainage was very minimal on the traffic, it could be as low as $158,000, $160,000, of which we have $150 set aside. But because they put their overhead and profit predominantly into traffic and or grading complete items, are almost guaranteed that they're going to get their profit, because all of the other items in the contract could be more or less as directed by the county. So it'd be crazy for them to put all of their eggs in that basket. So they put them in what they know they're going to get. And that's the difficulty in breaking out the cost associated with the turn lane, the cost associated with the drainage, and the rest of it with the paving.
What, just out of curiosity, at the work session, I think it was brought up by both Commissioner Murphy and I to at least ask the contractor on this project about doing the work at night. What was their response to that?
More money.
How much more did they say?
I don't think I've
We ran
approached
into
him
these
on
others.
it. We got caught up with this.
Yeah, this is, we got, so what's the total cost for this whole thing, if we do everything?
Well, if we do everything, it's $792. If we look at resurfacing only, it's considerably less, but you know, somewhere in that hopefully in the neighborhood of less than 500.
Well, I mean, why don't we go ahead and just do the whole thing now, and just, if we have to, if the developer is not agreeable to pay the remaining part of it, then can't we go after them as far as some type of civil action against them?
Do we have grounds to stand on if we?
Well, again, one of the difficulties may be is if the company
Doesn't exist.
doesn't exist anymore. And again, that was what the bond is supposed to protect against, is
I
if they're gone and they're,
Yeah,
they're
But
not
this,
around
but
anymore.
this, but the bottom line is, the people that are suffering because of this are the people that live in the reserves and everything, because of the ability to get in and out of that subdivision. So is it fair to them to, you know, just not go ahead and do the whole thing and then go after the developer?
Can we do the whole thing with that agreement that we have?
Yeah, the only thing about moving forward is because we do have that agreement that says we'll give them an opportunity. they could then try to argue that, well, you didn't give us an opportunity to do the work ourselves, so we want our bond money back.
Can we get them, put a time limit on for them to get it done?
The agreement has a 30-day time limit.
So,
But we still haven't contacted anybody as far as the developer or.
I think they've reached out, but I think the contract calls for the county to send them a formal notice to proceed, saying start the work, and then they have 30 days from that time period to.
when do we plan to start this? Doing the other stuff?
We were looking at starting this right after your board approval at the next board.
On the 6th.
So it could
So
be
as early as
coordinated
the week
together. I guess
prior.
that's what I was trying to see. Can it, if they do say we'll do it, then they'll be required to they could coordinate it at the same time, possibly.
Well, yeah,
I know
anytime you have two contractors working in the same area at the same time, you got some challenges, so. You got some finger pointing that happens, and workmanship things, it's just not
Well-
smooth. But I mean, we could, I don't know if this works right or not. I mean, they could give them a notice to proceed next week. We give them 30 days, then we don't issue our notice to proceed until after they have the opportunity to either say they're gonna do the work or not do the work. They have 30 days to decide whether they're gonna do it or not to perform, is that right?
Yeah, we may know by the time.
So,
Yeah,
You know,
and we can still get this done before Georgia-Florida weekend, can't we? All things taken into consideration.
The mill and the resurface is about a 2-week job. The turn lane and the drainage are a little more extensive. Is that right? We're looking at about a month and a half, maybe?
45 days.
There's 2 road cuts. There's some trees that have to come down on the side of the road.
And if we do it that way, we'll all have, your approval of this contract will have to have some conditions in it. Because this contract was for the entire job, if let's just say the developer decides they will put in the turn lane at their expense, obviously we're not gonna pay this contractor for that, so that's gonna kind of affect the, as Mr. Deloach said, if y'all award a contract next Thursday saying don't do the turn lane because the developers agreed to do it, I think we can change those, because it's a unit price contract, we can order less quantity, but you're still gonna pay the same amount in traffic control and those kinds of things.
Well, I hate to do this, but who screwed this up? And I ask that for the fact that if we knew that the developer was responsible to put in the turn lane, and he had this bond, but at the same time, we bid the whole contract for the turn lane to be included in it, then why did we do that?
Well, I think like Paul said, we have the money in hand, it's a cash bond, we have.
Yeah, but it's
cash.
only $60,000, and we know by the estimate that came in that, for the resurfacing of Demery and everything, that it wasn't gonna be enough.
Well, when we compiled these contract documents, we actually thought we had more than 60,000 at the time. Okay, and we just took the contract documents of the design and just imprinted them on our scope of work. So we thought we had it covered, because we thought we had enough money. And we thought we should do it all at one time, just made sense to go in there and do the whole thing at one time. Only yesterday that I found out that, it's a bond, or a couple of days ago, it's a bond, and you can't use the money until they've had the work, kind of the right of first refusal to not perform the work.
So what's the best way to fix this? So it's back to doing it in 3 phases.
Well, you have a couple of options, hate to say this, but in the public works business, there's always the do-nothing option, okay? You could mill and resurface and leave it the way it is. The people in the reserves of Demery have been getting in and out of that place for the last couple of years. Or we could do a traffic analysis of that intersection and find out if it is in, those turn lanes are indeed still warranted based on the current use of the reserves of Demery. The traffic analysis for those turn lanes was done from the previous traffic engineer that the county had, and was done based on the full occupancy of the reserves of Demery. They may not be at full occupancy. I know that the buildings all seem to be sold, but I don't know if they're all inhabited at the same time. So I don't know. I haven't received any complaints, but that's not to say there aren't complaints out there that this isn't a contentious intersection of people trying to get in and out. Would this improvement help? Yes, it would help, but I don't know if it's a big problem. The drainage would help, but the biggest problem on Demery Road, drainage is not at that place. It's in a place farther up the road, which we can't fix right now.
So it would seem to me, however, that if the agreement with the developer was that these turn lanes would go in at their expense, we need to pursue that regardless of the timeline. Obviously, it would be ideal, as my fellow commissioners have outlined, to do it in conjunction with this present project, or have it done immediately before they start the milling and resurfacing. So I think we need to pursue that. We'll, find out what their position is on the agreed upon turn lanes and how they're going to honor that commitment. The second question I have is we seem to be tying in the drainage project with the builder's need for the turn lanes, and I'm a little bit unclear on that. Why we couldn't, if that's a separate issue for a separate day and we don't know the answer to that yet, why aren't we talking about doing the milling and resurfacing along with the drainage project at the same time?
I'm going to let Mr. Deloach
Do we know for a fact, because I heard you say that the amount set aside for that project was $150,000, but we really don't know what the builder might come back and say, well, that portion is $160,000, in which case I think we could find an extra $10,000.
Right,
if it's $225,000, we might have a different issue.
Now,
What do you think?
Well, his initial look was north of 220, but when he scoped it down better, I think he got to a number of 158. So that there's a little bit number, but I don't know if you can do the drainage without doing the turn lane, right? Isn't the drainage part of the turn lane, or?
So why don't we pursue that to see if you can cut that out, Dave Deloach, and get a better number on the drainage and do those two for certain while we wait to see what the builder's going to do.
I agree with
Does that
Commissioner
make sense?
Yep.
Great.
And if the county attorney's office can pursue this turn lane at reserves as expeditiously as possible to see if we can, get this done quickly.
All right, so then we will move the recommendation to just remove the turn lane.
Right.
And then base the updated bids for the responsive vendors for mill drainage and resurface.
Good. Right. Okay. So see what we got.
And we'll see what we got. We'll
Right.
bring that to the board at the meeting, and we'll pass
Okay.
it all out.
So can we
Yes, sir.
use his recommendation as a motion, Counselor?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Have a motion?
I'll make
Off,
a, go ahead.
offering, Dave's motion
All right.
as written out there in his
Right.
handwriting.
Second.
All in favor? Very good, thank you. Thank you, David. Don't go anywhere. Number 16, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners award a contract for architectural and engineering services for Blythe Island Regional Park. Electrical, water, and sewer upgrades to the 30 existing campsites to PC Simonton of Hinesville, Georgia, for $36,180 with funding provided by fiscal year capital project fund budget, and to amend the fiscal year 19 budget to carry forward these budgeted items. Mr. Austin.
So I think if I got this right, we're going to,
That's always comforting.
That's good, that's good. That's a
so,
good way to start.
this is to design, the 30 campsites could be put out for bid. It's also to get a design and an estimated cost for 36 additional, campsites.
That ain't what it says.
I know. Isn't that right, Mr. Gillespie?
So it upgrades 30 and it brings in an additional 36?
Right, so,
So this whole thing here is
66.
not
Right.
correct.
correct, it needs to be, scrubbed a little bit.
So
Is it something we need to work on right here and now, or wait till the Board of Commissioners meeting in 10 days, or 2 weeks? What do you think?
No, I think we can scrub this right now, maybe.
So do you know what the exact amount of what we're talking about to upgrade the
Well,
30 and the,
we have 30 in the budget,
okay,
okay? And so we want to design those 30. And then we also want the contractor, while he's in there doing all that design, to give us a design and a cost for 36 additional ones to be funded in maybe in an upcoming SPLOST or something, or an upcoming budget. So that's, while it was just an opportunity, while you had the designer in there already doing the work, already figuring out how much water, how much sewer, how much electrical needs there were for 30, might as well get him to give us an estimate for the whole thing of 66. Is that right, Dave?
You got a certain few in there that's got to have sewer now. And they want an electrical upgrade to all of the ones in there to have 50 amp circuits, 30 amp circuit, and a 15 amp breaker at all of the campsites. Okay, so we already have to study the size of the existing septic system that's there to see that it can accommodate the few that we have remaining. Okay, the other portion for the newer construction will require the same oversight onto the septic field that this guy's already having to do for the existing ones to see that they are going to fit. So it only made sense to not pay twice for that redundancy of service and having them go ahead and give us an estimate for design of the back tier of camp spots.
So he's not going to design that piece, he's just going to give us an estimate.
Give us an estimate for the cost of the design.
Do we have any idea of what that might add to the project cost? Minimal? I mean, if it's just a sort of a back of the envelope estimate, it couldn't be that much if he's not going to design it out. Is that what we're asking for?
Correct.
I don't know, it's $36,000 to,
He has to go in and do an assessment on all the electrical and the sub panels and everything that's feeding the existing campground. Do a design on taking the new circuits to all of the existing sites. Okay, that's the mass of the money. The rest of it's a layout plan, basically, where he goes in there and he knows how many spots he's got and assesses a cost to each one and tells us what it costs to come up with a design for that.
so how many campground sites we got out there right now at Blythe Island? Lisa?
97.
97. And we want to look at the possibility of adding an additional 36. Is that correct?
66.
30, but
30.
but add another 66. total.
30 of them are existing.
No, this is for the design of 30 plus the estimate of 36. So the Commissioner Booker is
That's
correct.
not what this says, Mr. Austin.
Correct.
It says
Correct.
for the water and sewer upgrades to 30 existing campsites.
Oh,
So
That's
one,
right.
one would assume that's part of the 97
That's
that
right.
Lisa did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's correct.
all right.
There's
Yes.
certain sites in between numbers about 28 or 29 up to 60. There's certain designated, about 30 sites in that range that need upgrading.
You know what might be better, since we're all over the ballpark on this? As you say, David, why doesn't somebody put a little scrub brush to this? And if it can get done by the time of the BOC meeting in, a little over a week, maybe we could look at it then.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll, probably ought to have a motion to defer. Would that be best?
To defer to the Board of Commissioners recommendation.
If, defer,
Yeah.
hoping that it gets scrubbed and it can be presented to the Board of Commissioners. Does that make sense? Or should we?
I think maybe just, you can make a motion to forward it to the Board of Commissioners.
Without a recommendation.
Yeah.
Right, and I'll clarify what
Okay.
we're actually
Okay,
asking
I
for.
make a motion to
Second.
defer to the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Is that good, Will?
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Very good. Okay, we're really making some progress now.
Yes, sir.
That's good, that's good.
We're on the downhill.
Yeah, thanks, David, I appreciate it.
It was doing good till we
It
got
was.
to Public
Till
Works.
we got David up here, sorry. Number 17, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners reject the low bid of $126,900 for Phase 1 of the historic courthouse paver replacement for an A&M Builders and Erectors, and allow staff to come up with an alternative to the project within budget.
So this is our second stab at trying to fix these pavers outside the historic courthouse. First we tried with paver replacement, and then we sent out a bid for stamped concrete, which is what this is, and basically we only have $50,000, and this guy came in way over. So we're not going to ask for additional money. I'm going to look at some in-house fixes. We have some pavers we have some additional pavers. We're going to go out there and over time fix the trip hazards and do some in-house maintenance.
Why are we using pavers? Why don't we just concrete it and be
That's what
done
this
with it?
was. That's what this was, the stamped. And this came in high. So we originally went with
Because
pavers.
we had, the pavers over in Neptune Park didn't fare well after the hurricane
No.
and everything. So why would we want to then take and do the same thing at the historic courthouse with the possibility that if it's a bad hurricane or flood and now they're gone? And so why not just concrete the whole thing and be done with it? I mean,
Well, that's what this bid was, concrete and stamp it to make it look like a paver. Similar to what the sidewalk has out there that the city has done. They've stamped the concrete and a hexagonal paver looking. But we bid that out there and that number was high.
Is the greatest expense for the concrete and the pouring, the laying of the concrete? How much does the stamping add to it? Is that a considerable cost?
Not that much.
So really, what Commissioner Strickland's asking is, even just to throw down concrete, $50,000 isn't going to get it done.
Well, we thought we could get, one or two sides of the courthouse done for $50,000. So
Yeah.
when we bid out there and bid it, it turned into quite
Right.
more.
So what's your recommendation?
Well, we're going to look at the areas that need to be fixed and fix it in-house. We have some pavers, we pull them up and level them and put them back down.
Have you done that before?
We have a concrete foreman that has been able to put pavers down in the village.
Right.
So we have some in-house capability that's right outside of Brogan's North that he took care of and over around there by Neptune Park.
Right.
So he's shown an ability to lay down pavers.
Seems to me that that's a chronic problem with pavers. They need constant maintenance.
True, but these things have been there for 100 years.
Agreed. So if you can fix them in-house and try to restore safety, that would seem to me to be a reasonable option.
We're going to give that a go, and if it doesn't work, we'll be back here or put it in the budget for the stamped concrete again with a bigger budget.
Yeah,
I make a recommendation to reject the low bid.
Second.
all in favor? That's great. Good luck. I hope that works.
Yes, sir.
18, consider recommended Board of Commissioners approve the addition of Harrogate Road resurfacing with funding provided by the remaining balance of the 2017 LMIG resurfacing and restriping of county roads in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
So this is an opportunity to pave a road in is CPOMS. Joint Water and Sewer has just done some extensive work on this road, and they're going to resurface a majority of the road. Except they're not going to resurface 700 feet on this side and 700 feet on that side. So they came to us and said, you know, we could do the whole road if you give us some of this money. And it happens to be the same company, I think, and we already have a contract with them to do resurfacing. So Mr. Deloach got the bid price under our 2017 LMIG, and for this price, we can, the public will just see the whole road get resurfaced, and they'll probably think Joint Water and Sewer did it. But at least that'll be taken.
We should put up signs.
Well, at least it'll be taken care of.
This is done by Glynn County.
It'll be taken care of.
Was this the road that was severely disadvantaged and torn up severely by?
You go in there
Right.
and you hang a right.
Right.
It parallels Federica.
Yeah.
Motion
I
to
think
approve.
it's fabulous
Second.
that you're doing this. Thank you. All in favor?
And that concludes it.
Great. Thank you.
Boy, you wear us out.
Thought this was gonna be a quick one,
I
Dave.
did too.
It almost was. All right, hey, Chief. Okay, number 19, consider the Board of Commissioners approve the issuance of purchase order utilizing a state contract with the number as listed here to Hardy Chevrolet, 2026 Macklin Road, Dallas, Georgia, in the amount of $37,278 for the purchase of one 2019 Chevy Tahoe Paramedic Chase vehicle to Hardy Chevrolet, funding provided by the Fiscal Year 19 Capital Projects Fund. Chief Jordan.
As Commissioners, what this vehicle will do for us is eliminate the vast majority of our engine responses to medical calls.
Right.
We currently on critical calls on an engine and an ambulance. This paramedic chase vehicle, one, will allow us to staff the ambulances with EMTs, have the paramedic intercept, so one paramedic can cover 2 to 3 zones, and it'll eliminate the wear and tear on our engines.
Great
Now, will
plan.
this be used both in the city and the county?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, with the city, it's going to be a coin toss. I received a email today where Brunswick Fire Department, one of their captains, had notified dispatch that he didn't want dispatched on needless medical calls. He only wanted to respond to critical calls. We rely on support all the times with heavier patients. So we would either have to special call them or would have, rather than run an engine, we would run the Tahoe down there.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Let's try this one more time.
Okay. Our standard response to all medical calls right now is to run an ambulance
Right, and an engine.
and an engine on anything that comes in that doesn't sound serious. Sometimes stub toe, we'll just run an ambulance.
Right.
All right, City of Brunswick does the same thing for us. Their captain, and I forget his name offhand, sent an email to dispatch, called dispatch, and stated that he didn't want to run anything other than breathing difficulties, heart attacks, what he considered to be truly critical calls. That would mean that broken arms, broken legs, things like that, our ambulance would be running by itself. So we would either have to call for one of our engines or this paramedic chase vehicle to back us up. Now, I did speak to the fire chief today, and he is going to check into that.
Well, who makes the
I was
decision
about
for
to
the
say.
city, the chief or the captain?
That the chief seemed very surprised when I sent him the email.
Who's running the fire department?
The chief, he's done a great job down there.
Hey, forward me the email.
Yes, sir.
But, okay, but getting back to the original question, if there's a need for a squad in the city, will this chase vehicle respond to city calls as well as county calls?
Usually not, because the city squad has a paramedic on it, and they're backed up by Brunswick Fire Department. However, in the event that ambulance is out, or the Station 1 ambulance has to go, yes, that paramedic chase vehicle would indeed run into the city.
Wait a minute, I'm confused again.
And
The city
certainly-
squad, okay, that runs out of the station down there
Yes, sir.
on Gloucester, it has a paramedic and an EMT on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they respond to calls in the city?
They respond throughout the county, but primarily the city.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And so if they get a call and it's a bad call, then the squad and the city of Brunswick fire engine also responds?
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay. So I guess what I don't understand is, what if the city fire engine doesn't respond and just the squad responds? Then this paramedic vehicle that you're requesting, they wouldn't respond just as a backup?
It could, it depends on the patient. If a patient has a minor injury and can walk to the ambulance,
Yeah.
then they wouldn't need assistance. If we had to take a patient off the second floor down steps, yes, we would back it up with the.
So what's the relationship if you're saying that the city squad on Gloucester Street would respond anywhere in the county? That's if we're tied up. When would they? I guess what I'm trying to see is we don't have ambulances for the county area. Why would there be a need for them to respond in the county somewhere?
We equate this to rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Okay.
If the two ambulances on the island take calls, we move an ambulance to the island to provide coverage. So if the city squad's out, the squad at Ballard is out, then we move one from Sterling in. It's a constant reversal. So what they do is, instead of having a gap of service of 3 miles, we try to reposition an ambulance and equal out the distance to provide.
And you coordinate that with the city?
Yes, we always have.
Okay.
We always have.
Okay. All right.
Well, in its essence, it makes sense to me that with this chase vehicle, you won't be sending out an engine on medical calls, which makes terrific sense. So,
Right.
Now, there will still be instances we run an engine
Right,
in
right.
outlying areas.
Right.
But our two busiest areas are Ballard and the city.
Of course.
recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Number 20, recommend the Board of Commissioners, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners accept a 5-year fee proposal from Ecological Planning Group for Phase 2 professional services and approve the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $44,960 for the 2018 service, with funding provided by the fiscal year 19 Community Development Engineering Division's operating budget. Pamela?
What the hell did all that just mean?
Yeah, who is it?
Sounds like Paul needs some help.
No, this is an easy one. What the county operates under a statewide, or a state permit for operating our stormwater drainage system. It's under the NPDES program. In years past, we've gotten individual annual contracts when we've needed them to have consultants come in and help support that program with the county. This is effort to streamline that and have a consultant carry us through the whole of the 5-year permitting cycle for this. This request is the fee proposal is for base year plus 4 option years, but this request is only to authorize PO for the first year, the base year. And then we'll be back to you next year, just like our landfill contract, assuming that the consultant works out, which I have every reason to believe they will.
Right.
We'd be back to you next year to go with option year 1.
Questions or issues?
For a motion, recommend for acceptance of this 5-year proposal fee.
Second.
All in favor? Thanks, Paul. Okay, I guess we have no other items. On the consent agenda, everything probably except for number 15 that we spent so much time on, and if they're able to roll up 16 into a proposal, we'll look at it on Thursday night.
So 16 will not be on.
And you're gonna,
consent either.
he's gonna straighten out 16.
I'll have a presentation for
He's gonna try
Okay,
to
and
put
it can
six,
still go
he's gonna
on.
try to put 15 to 16 on the general business and everything else in the consent agenda.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. You know, I'm looking at some dates here.